While we're on the subject of foreign policy, let's take a minute on the Houthis and Iran.
Yes.
And that, that's a loud war machine too. I mean, there is definitely a faction of people who would love to see the green light on either us hitting Iran or just backing Israel and it hitting Iran. And the Houthis are backed by Iran, so that was playing with fire. I understand why we did it totally, but I just wonder, I haven't heard you speak directly to that attack or the language that we've been hearing around Iran, even by the president. Like, I don't want to bomb them. I'd much rather chat, but, it's an option, which I know you're against. So can you talk about that a bit?
Well, look, just in an ideal world, I think Iran is a threat to Israel. I think it's a threat to the Gulf states, all 6 of them. We're allied with those countries. I think they've been really good partners for us. And so it's not a defense of Iran to ask the question, can we actually do this? I mean, there are all kinds of things that you want to do. The question is, am I capable of doing them? Do I have the power to affect the change I seek? And in the case of Iran, it's not at all clear. What is clear is that any strike on Iran could potentially, because the future, as noted, is hard to predict, could potentially spin into a much wider, potentially global conflict. But even in the short term, there are massive, massive downsides. So there are, 6 Iranian nuclear facilities that we know about or we talk about in public anyway, and all 6 of them are on the Gulf, the Arabian Gulf or the Persian Gulf, depending on what side you're on, but they're on the Gulf. Well, the water supply for every country in the region comes from the Gulf through desalination. So if you blow up a nuclear site and you pollute the Persian Gulf, then you've got 6 of the richest countries in the world with no water. And at least one of them has thought this through and has been building giant reservoirs for seawater, for drinking water, but they're only a couple weeks supply. So the second point you make is that a huge percentage of global energy goes through that piece of water, out through the Straits of Hormuz and then to the west, to Europe and the United States and to the world. And so if you shut that down, you're looking at global oil price, you're looking at $25 a gallon gasoline, right? So that's the fastest, most destructive kind of inflation that percolates down through the whole economy, because the price of energy determines the price of pretty much everything, because energy makes civilization possible. So that's a really big downside. I'm not saying it's not, it's not a question of are you happy that Iran might have nukes? I'm not happy that Pakistan has nukes. There's at least one other country that clearly has nukes that nobody says out loud. I'm not talking about Israel, but it's a more complicated world. France has nukes. Is France doing deals with other countries that guarantee nuclear protection for other countries? Probably. So there's proliferation is a lot more profound a problem than I think people understand. So, but anyway, no one wants Iran to have nukes. No one in the Gulf does. Israel doesn't. Trump doesn't. I don't. You don't. Nobody wants Iran to have nukes. The question is, how do we stop that? And I don't really think it's about nukes. I think it's about regime change in Iran, that this government is hostile to the West, hostile to Israel primarily, but also to the United States. They are. And we would like a new government there that can be our friend. Now, there's a long history in Iran going back to 1954, where the U.S. government did affect regime change, as you know. In fact, the guy in charge of it lived on my street as a kid, former CIA officer, Roosevelt. And that didn't work well, and that got us to the Shah, and then to 1979, and then the Islamic Republic ever since. So, it's hard to affect regime change in countries you're not from. It's hard to know what the consequences will be. We've tampered in that country extensively. It hasn't worked at all. It's been counterproductive. And that's also true of neighboring countries, Iraq, Syria right now, Libya. I mean, just name the country. Regime change is hard to pull off, okay? So anyone telling you regime change, and there are a lot of people, paid liars in Washington, who are telling you that. Just regime change. There's lots of people who hate the religious authorities in Iran. I think that's true, seems to be true. But that's not the same as, we're going to throw in a pro-Western government and everything's going to be fine. Show us where you've done that before. Oh, you've never done it before.
No, I've been joking that in when they talk about regime change in Russia, they think they're going to get Jeb Bartlett in there after Putin. Hello.
Oh, dude. The largest country in the world that's 25% Muslim, that, Putin is a moderate. Putin is the most pro-Western person I've dealt with in Russia. I mean, I'm just telling you, whatever. I'm not defending Putin. Though I think you can make a case he's done a great job for Russia.
No, but you're making the case you don't know what's coming next. And look at the terrorism threat from within Russia. I mean, he's clamped down on that just the way you'd want to happen in your country.
I think I think we can say that anybody at a think tank or a publication or a federal agency who blithely talks about regime change in any country should be disqualified from talking about anything foreign policy related ever again. If you had a hand in the Iraq war, if you had a hand in the Syria disaster, if you had a hand in killing Gaddafi, if you had a hand in Afghanistan, if you lied about what happened on 9/11, and that's pretty much everybody in D.C. in the foreign policy establishment, you can no longer participate in the decision-making process about where to send arms and money around the world because you are disqualified. Your track record is so repugnant. We're not going to throw you in jail, though you clearly deserve it. We are instead just going to take you out of the conversation because you were demonstrably unqualified to get us into new wars because you screwed it up last time. I don't think that's a terrible standard. That's like a really straightforward standard. And I feel angry about it because I spent my whole life there. My dad worked for the federal government in the foreign policy sphere. And so, like, I just grew up with this stuff and I know the people. And I know that none of them has ever apologized or changed his thinking, repented. And the baseline requirement in my house as a father is you can do whatever you want. You can screw up as badly as you want. I will always love you no matter what you do. But you have to admit fault and you have to try to change. That's called repentance. That's like, we should make that a absolute unyielding requirement for our leaders. If you screw up, if you admit it and try to get better, we still love you. But if you refuse to do that, we're never trusting you again. And that's our entire foreign policy establishment. And so for those people, and by the way, it's not just that they're like arguing for regime change in Iraq. They're not. They're not even honorable enough to say what they want out loud. Right. And anyone who raises questions, I'll speak from great experience on this topic. I've never said word one about what's happening in Gaza, okay? I have views on it. I'm not impressed at all. But I've like tried to pull back because it's not my country, okay? So I'm just looking at it from an American perspective. I don't want my country to be further weakened, my fellow citizens to die yet again, my federal treasury to be drained yet again on behalf of an idea that's clearly stupid. Like, I think it's important to say, wait a second, is this a good idea? Can we actually do what you say we can do? For doing that, I have been attacked as a tool of Iran. I'm a freaking Episcopalian. I am not Shiite as a tool of Qatar, who's like one of our closest allies in the world. The largest American air base in the Middle East is in Qatar. They're a close ally of ours. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're taking Qatari money. I've never taken a dollar from any government. I mean, are you joking? And these are people who are acting on behalf of a foreign government telling me that I'm unpatriotic. And I try not to get like crazy angry about it, but it's hard. Because you see these people, Ben Shapiro or these shills like come out and like attack you personally because he was bashing you just this week. But it's what's so infuriating is like I'm 56 in 2 weeks, so I've watched this. I was in Iraq. Like I'm not an expert on anything, and I would never claim expertise. I try not to claim expertise I don't have. But just I have a good memory, and I was there for a lot of this stuff, and I have unresolved rage. For the reasons I just explained. No one's apologized, no one's repented, no one's changed. And so to attack me is I'm selling out my country, which is the only thing I care about. I don't have another passport. I have no plans to go anywhere. I could certainly afford to move some other country. I'm not. I live directly across from my parents' grave and I'm never leaving. So to attack me as a shill for another country, when you yourself are shilling for another country, it's almost too much for my tiny brain to deal with, actually. How much better it would be if someone like Ben Shapiro, who's smart, and I don't think Ben Shapiro is like evil, I'm not attacking him as a person, but how much better would it be if he could just sit and say, okay, here's what I think would happen if we joined an attack on Iran, or stop lying to me and telling me that we're going to defeat the Houthis. The whole point of getting involved in a war with the Houthis is to suck us into a war with Iran. Like, I know that because I know a lot about this topic. So don't patronize me and lie to me. Just be straightforward and say, I think we can affect regime change in Iran. Here's how we can do it. And then I could say, well, here are my concerns. But instead it's like,
for the following reasons.
You're weak. You don't love America. I don't love America? Really?
Yeah.
It's too much. I can't deal with it.
Tariff wars, stubborn inflation, no wonder gold has been routinely hitting all-time highs. And volatile markets like the one we have now don't sit on the sidelines with your head in the sand. You can take control and safeguard your savings. This is why so many Americans today are turning to Birch Gold Group. They have helped tens of thousands convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. Is it time for you to hedge against economic instability with gold? To learn how to own physical gold in a tax-sheltered account, just text MK to the number 989898. Birch Gold will send you a free, no-obligation info kit. Again, text MK to the number 989898. With an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews, Birch Gold has helped so many protect their savings with gold. It took us decades to get into the tangled mess they're trying to unpack now in D.C. How long is it going to take to get out of it, and at what cost? Text MK to 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.